Hello and welcome to this edition of Bates Technical College Staff Spotlight. Our guest for today's show is Vice President of Instruction and CAO at Bates Technical College, Dr. Johnny Hu. Dr. Hu, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to us.
Thank you, Chris. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, first off, we're going to start with a little background.
Great.
I did a little bit of research. You have a fairly extensive background in education.
Correct.
And mainly right here in Western Washington.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about your journey, your background, up until you made it here to Bates?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So I have been working in the state's community and technical college system. I did a little bit of math for about 13 years now. And so I started off as a math instructor at kind of my first job, first starting out as an adjunct instructor, teaching part-time math classes, and then eventually I got a full-time position and earned tenure as a full-time math instructor. So even though I'm not in the classroom every day, I still miss it, and that's will always be my passion is working with students and teaching math and kind of seeing the light bulb that they get whenever they learn a new math concept. And so that was about the first, I would say 7 years of my professional career was teaching mathematics to students. And so then, somewhere along the lines, I thought, there are exciting things at the college that happens outside of the classroom. And so I made the decision to move outside the classroom and explore being an administrator. And so I transitioned from a faculty role to an administrator, and I became an associate dean overseeing the math science area, and then eventually dean overseeing all of the academic transfer courses. So this was at South Seattle College, one of the colleges in the Seattle Colleges system. And so then after that, again, I was really excited being able to work, particularly with the instructional programs and faculty. I made the decision to transition to my current role here at Bates Technical College as Vice President of Instruction, where I really have the wonderful opportunity to work with such dedicated faculty and staff who provide career training to all of our students. And so it's just really wonderful to kind of get to know every single program here at Bates, and every program here at Bates really is very different and unique and really special.
So with this extensive background in education, what started it all? What made you want to get involved in education?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I was the kid who loved school. I grew up with my grandparents in Federal Way, which is very close to where Bates is located. And as a kid, school was the place that I found, it felt like my second home. So I was very close to my teachers, and they really served as my role models growing up. And so for me, being in education, it was just a natural fit for me. The other piece about being in education is I really feel like education, one of the core missions of an educator is to help people, to inspire others to achieve their best, and kind of help them along their journey. And so that's always been a core value of mine ever since I was a little kid. The values that my grandparents instilled in me, that it's important to put others first. It's always important to give back. And so being in education and being an instructor, staying in education throughout my kind of career journey, it was just kind of who I am, and it matches my core values very well that were instilled in me at a very young age. So to be honest, I honestly don't really know how to do anything else, and I don't really want to be anywhere else, because that's just kind of who I am.
So you've gone from being a classroom educator, mainly it looks like in mathematics,
Yep.
and helping students learn, and you're still involved in the game.
Yep.
Now you're in management.
Yep.
What's unique about your management style?
So my management style, so I actually think about, there's a lot of things that I did as a faculty member that I do as a manager. And I would say at the forefront is building relationships. And so obviously as an instructor, you have to have those one-on-one relationships with the students inside, outside the classroom. Whenever they need help with homework support, you're there with them all the time. As a manager, I do that primarily with the faculty and staff here at the college. And so, and it really starts with building relationships with each faculty member, with each program, with each staff member, and letting them know that I am someone that they can trust and lean on if they need a problem or something needs to be solved. And so for me, I would say that is my critical kind of leadership style is kind of relationships first. And then of course, I also want to make sure that we're following process. And one of the things that I've really emphasized with my staff is, I really think it's important to be consistent, right? Not to say that, everything has to be the same all the time, but I think consistency and following processes are key. I think it is, kind of like my math background, like I have a pretty logical mindset and making sure like things make sense. And also communication is key. And again, it comes back to my teaching days where, I don't assume everyone knows exactly what I'm thinking or what I'm talking about. So making sure that I communicate clearly in multiple ways, letting people know that what I'm thinking, here are the reasons why a decision is made, and making sure that everybody's on the same page.
So you've gone from the classroom up there in the North Sound, the Bellingham area,
Yep.
and you're now in management. You've been here at Bates for a little while, and what would you say is your favorite thing about working here at Bates?
There's a lot, and if I were to pinpoint one thing, I would say the people in the programs. And so when I say people, and I've worked at, I would say Bates is I'm gonna have to count real quick, 5th community technical college that I've worked at here in the state. And I can honestly say, I don't think I've ever met such dedicated faculty and staff dedicated to their students. And so it's so wonderful just walking along the hallways across our 3 campuses, meeting students, and talking with the faculty and the staff about each of the instructional programs. The other piece that I think Bates is very special and unique at is really the direct connection to industry. And I know that's one of the core things that, most, if not all, community and technical colleges, that's part of what we do. But really, like, to just see how connected and committed the faculty are here to their field is just been, just been amazing. And to me, I learn something new every day that I didn't know about certain programs. And like I said earlier, every program is unique, and that's what makes Bates really special.
So with the 1 minute we have before the break, tell me, what is the best advice you have ever received?
Wow, that one, let's see. I would say put others first, lead by example, and give back.
And that's advice. That's what the advice you've received, and you would pass along to your students.
Absolutely, and the faculty and staff that I work with, right? And paying it forward, because it's important to, now that I'm a leadership role, I need to make sure that we have future leaders that kind of carry along the same message as well.
And they'll pass, and you're hoping they'll pass along that advice.
Absolutely, absolutely, right. It never stops, right? We want to make sure that the college continues to grow and be successful, and it's my job to make sure that happens.
Any challenges in that?
Sure. I think the current kind of where we are, like, obviously COVID was a challenge, and if we want to consider us being post-COVID, I think that has been a challenge, and making sure that we continue to have the the faculty and staff to support our students, that we continue to develop and innovate new programs. All of that will be something that we'll continue to work on, but we'll also present challenges, I'm sure.
And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Dr. Johnny Hu.
It's one of the best schools that you can go to actually do hands-on learning, teaches you the skills that you need to actually jump into the industry. And when I leave here, I'm going to be prepared and ready to work in the industry.
You're not sitting at a desk. Teachers are exceptional.
There's not a lot of programs where you have a working television studio that you can learn in.
Welcome back to Staff Spotlight. We've been talking with Dr. Johnny Hu, the Vice President of Instruction and CAO here at Bates Technical College. Johnny, again, it's a great conversation. Let's continue. Let's get a little personal now. We got to know you in the professional realm. Now let's talk about what you like to do when you're not here at Bates. What are some of your hobbies and interests?
Yeah, so I spend a lot of time on work, so I appreciate this question about life outside of work. So I do think having some hobbies outside of work is important, even though I do spend a lot of time on work. So I would say I spend a lot of time with my wife. She and I try to do a couple of trips every year, and I would say our favorite spot is Hawaii. It's nice being in the being in the Northwest most of the year. I'm sure we love our rainy weather here, right? And it gets pretty cold in the winter time. So at least once or twice a year, we try to escape the Northwest rain, so to speak, and venture into a place somewhere warm. And I think Hawaii is a place that we identified as a fun place to visit. Obviously the weather's nice, but there's also really good food. Speaking of food, I consider myself kind of a foodie. Unfortunately, I'm not a very good cook, though, so please don't ever ask me to make anything. But I'm happy to eat out with you and friends, and I like kind of using Yelp and trying to find new places to eat a lot. So my wife and I like to explore kind of yummy places.
Any types of food or any particular part of town you kind of like looking?
Well, so we go to Seattle and Bellevue a lot. So again, having grown up with my grandparents, I'm very particular with Asian food and Chinese cuisine in particular. So I don't know if I should name specific places, but there are some places that I like on the north end. And in the south end, there is a dim sum restaurant that I think is really good.
I know several of them too. We're both South King County guys that we're discussing on the break. So you were talking about Hawaii. Let's back up a little bit there. What islands do you like to go, or islands do you like to go to?
Yeah, so we first went to Oahu a couple years ago, and I think that's more of the touristy area. And then the next island we went to was the Big Island, and we actually took a pretty nice all-island tour and really got to explore the island. And I think my personal favorite is the Big Island. We went to Maui this past year, and it was also very fun. But I would still say the Big Island's my favorite.
Yeah, I briefly lived in Hawaii, and I've traveled out there many times. Oahu does have its gems, though it is a big city.
Absolutely.
So travel and food. Are there any other interests that you have that you explore when you're not here?
Yeah. So I think the usual kind of Friday night winding down, watching Netflix and movies. I also do have a little Chihuahua. So he's a 6-pound Dachshund Chihuahua mix. His name is Sherman, and he's small, but he acts very. He has a little bit of a temper, But he's definitely a lapdog, and he loves people. So I spent a lot of time with him, and so the three of us are kind of, that's our family.
So let's jump from that to people. And when speaking about personal aspects, what person, living or dead, would you like to have, let's say, a coffee or a meal at one of your favorite restaurants with?
Yeah.
Who and why?
Yeah. So I have a couple people in mind, and I think one person that I think would be really cool to meet is Bruce Lee. And this is a random fact, Bruce Lee and I actually have the same birthday. Not date,
Really?
right? He's obviously, was born before me, but he and I have the same birthday. And I say Bruce Lee because he was, I would say, one of the few Asian American kind of role models that was in Hollywood kind of growing up. I think a lot of people really looked up to him, and I think he has some local ties, I think, too, as well. So
He lived here in Seattle. He's buried here in Seattle.
right. So I think it would be really, really cool to meet him. And see what it was like for him when he, started in the industry, and kind of hear about his experiences.
In our last minute, what would you ask Bruce if you had the chance to meet him?
So I would say, what made you decide to venture into his career field? Because I'd imagine when he started, there weren't a lot of people that looked like him. And so I would like to know, what was your experience? What was it like being one of the first to become successful in Hollywood?
Any particular place you'd like to meet him?
I'm hoping that he can pay and maybe treat me with his, I assume he would have a lot of money to a nice, maybe a steak dinner or something.
Steak dinner somewhere in some nice restaurant
Yeah.
in Seattle.
Absolutely.
So Bruce Lee is the person you'd like to meet with the most, and maybe a steak dinner with him.
Absolutely.
Nice. That sounds like a great evening and a very interesting person to meet. You're right. He does have a lot of local ties here, particularly in the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast. I believe he was born and raised in San Francisco. And with that, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back with more of our discussion with Dr. Johnny Hu. Talking to Dr. Johnny Hu, Vice President of Instruction and CAO here at Bates Technical College. Again, Johnny, we really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Chris.
To continue on with our conversation, what's one thing you'd like people to know about you, even maybe close friends or coworkers, that they may not know?
Yeah. So I think people are a little surprised when they hear this, but as a kid, I grew up watching professional wrestling. So I'm actually, I don't watch it quite as much anymore, but I actually went to a wrestling show this past Monday in Seattle. So my favorite wrestler growing up was The Undertaker. And so people kind of laugh when they hear that, but as a kid growing up, I watched a lot of professional wrestling with my grandparents.
So they don't know professional wrestling. There's no shame in it. I've never been a fan, but my two best friends from college, and we're all three still really tight. When they start talking about pro wrestling, I hear names like The Undertaker, and I kind of tune it out. But it is still a big deal, and that's very interesting. So, are there any other things that people might not know about you?
Let's see. Things that people might not know about me. I really can't think of anything right off the top of my head. I think the other piece that people might think it might be a little surprised. It's like, oh, you're a vice president and you look really young. So, but people tell me it's like, well, eventually, you know, you'll get older and you'll have gray hair and that won't be a problem anymore.
Well, there's hope. I'm in my 50s. I haven't gone gray yet.
Yeah,
so.
you look great.
Well, thank you. So how would you, in our last minute, how would you like to be remembered?
So I would like to be remembered as someone, again, who is there for the faculty, staff, and the students. I want to be remembered as someone who was able to make positive changes for the college. One of the things that I want to share is that the college is in the process of developing our first bachelor's degree. So all community and technical colleges have a bachelor's degree program except for Bates. And so one of my things that I would love to, I'm working on that I would like to see at Bates is see Bates develop our first bachelor's degree program to support our students.
And in our last 30 seconds that we have left, is there anything you would like viewers to know about you that we did not at all cover?
I would say, you know, I love working here. It is my dream job. And to be able to have the opportunity to serve the students, the faculty, and staff is really, truly an honor. And so I look forward to continuing to do the work and having fun doing it.
And you've been here, we were just talking about for 2 years.
Almost 2 years. 2 years in June.
What a ride it's been. Well, Dr. Hu, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and coming on to our show, and we wish you the best of luck here at Bates.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh, that will do it. Final note, Bates Staff Spotlight is a student-led production of the Broadcasting and Video Production program at Bates Technical College. For more information about our broadcasting and video program at Bates, please go to www.batestech.edu. Fell over myself a little bit there. I'm Chris Anderson. We'll see you next time on Bates Staff Spotlight.